Welcome to FaithFM Connects, Season 1, Episode 4. This episode is brought to you by Gospel Lighthouse, with 11 locations including Uptown Waterloo. Visit gospellighthouse.ca.
The light in the darkness, the Gospel Lighthouse.
This morning we head to Arkansas, where we are joined by a speaker, certified life coach, and a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, Holley Gerth. Good morning, Holley.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am doing well.
Excellent. Now, you have a new book out, Holley. It's called Fiercehearted, Live Fully, Love Bravely. Holley, I wonder if you could tell me what being a fierce-hearted woman looks like to you.
Well, live fully and love bravely says a lot of it, but I think we live in a world where it's so tempting to shut our hearts down. There's so much division and chaos and just hard things going on. And I came to a point in my personal life where I felt like I wanted to just pull back and play it safe. And this book came out of that, where Jesus showed me a different way to live and to love and a new freedom. And so I think being a fierce-hearted woman essentially is keeping your heart open and saying yes to Jesus even when it's hard.
Okay. So, and now, do you have an example of maybe in your own personal life of one of those hard times where it's hard to say yes?
Yeah, I was hurt by a friend, and I got on a plane to actually go see my publisher, but I sat there in the dark, where the stewardess is walking by handing out peanuts, and, not a good time to have a life-changing moment. But I sat there and just thought, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard to encourage people. I keep getting hurt, and I'm just going to check out. And I felt like Jesus was there with me in that moment and just waiting for me to decide what I would do. And I pulled out my Kindle, that's all I had with me, and opened the little notes feature and started typing in the dark, probably scaring my poor seatmate. And I wrote what is now the manifesto in Fiercehearted that says things like, a fierce-hearted woman knows love is risk and reaches out anyway, understands kindness, takes real courage. And that was a turning point for me, because I really did think about just shutting down my heart and walking away. And so I imagine everyone who's listening has had a moment like that at some point in their lives, because I think it's just part of living in a fallen, broken world. And so I hope this message gives people hope that we can make a different choice.
Absolutely. And it certainly isn't easy to live in this world in general, let alone as a Christian. And Holley, tell us what would be some challenging things in your life on a day-to-day basis.
I think that we all struggle with lies, that we hear, like you're not enough, or this person is not going to accept you, or whatever it is. I think we all have these signature lies that just come to us, and that's sort of the start of where we think about shutting down our hearts. Often there are other things that come along that add to that, but I think identifying what are my lies and what's the truth that God offers instead is a big part of the process. And so living with those lies is the challenge. I think, we live in a world that's more connected than ever, and yet individually we can be more isolated than ever. And so committing to having a tribe in your life, at least one other person who can fight alongside you and speak truth to you when you need to hear it, I think that is a challenge and really important. And then I think just endurance, knowing that the Christian life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. A lot of times we find ourselves at places where we think, this is harder than I thought it would be. And just acknowledging that that's not failure, that's not a shortcoming on our part, that that's normal, and that all God asks is for us to take the next step and to come to Him for the help that we need.
Yeah, no, we can't do it alone. I mean, we need God's help, of course. And as you mentioned, too, kind of hinting at there, perhaps God would provide a friend for us in the tough times.
Yes, I think we all need at least one person, and I think sometimes that person is a counselor. I'm a big advocate of counseling. I'm a licensed counselor myself.
Okay.
So if someone's listening and they're thinking, I don't have that person right now, then I think it's okay to go to your pastor or to a counselor or to someone else who's been trained to help with that as a starting place. And then just be praying, like, God, please send me at least one other person to just stand beside me and help me be fierce-hearted.
Yeah, for sure. So that you don't, maybe feel so alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, Holley, what would you say maybe to a younger version of yourself coming, from all through this journey that you've come through now, and maybe looking back as a younger version? Is there any advice that you would have for a younger self, maybe your younger self or a young woman listening?
I think I would say you don't have to try so hard, and you don't have anything to prove. I lived a lot of years thinking that my worth was determined by what I did, and I knew how to work really hard to try to get people's approval. And so, again, going back to those lies we believe, I would just say to my younger self and to anyone listening, you are already loved. You're chosen by God who has a purpose for your life and promises that he'll fulfill it. Your failures aren't going to disqualify you. It's just part of being human, and that's what the cross is for. And your story isn't finished yet. God is still writing it, and he promises that he's going to get you through whatever you face.
Wow, those are certainly encouraging words, Holley. So take us a bit more through the book, Fiercehearted. What else can we find in there?
Well, it's very different than the other books that I've written, which were more from a counseling and life coach perspective. This is a lot of story.
Oh, okay.
I think in many ways we are created to engage with story, and that's why Jesus told parables. And so I really invite readers into my life, but do so in a way where hopefully what I share about where I've been with Jesus resonates with their hearts and where they are too. And that's what I've heard back from people so far on the book, is that they feel seen, they feel heard. They say a lot of times, I thought I was the only one who felt this or had gone through it. And so it's short chapters, so you can pick it up and put it down, which I think is very much a shift in how we read these days. You know, we live in a smartphone world, and so if someone thinks, I'm too busy to read a book, you're not too busy to read this one. That was really important to me, too. And so going through the process, I think my hope by the end is that readers will have just a new level of freedom and a new level of joy and some tools to help them keep their hearts open like we talked about before.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, Holley, I just want to ask one last question. And at the beginning, I asked what being a fierce-hearted woman looks like to you. What is being fierce-hearted for a lifetime? What does that look like?
I think it means just not getting to the point where we say, okay, I'm done. I just wrote down this morning in my journal one of my favorite verses in Psalms. It says, they go from strength to strength before each appears before God in Zion. So I'm turning 40 tomorrow, actually, and I've been thinking a lot about how our culture tells us there's this point when you're over the hill or you reach retirement or, you know, at some point you're just going to kind of make different choices and decide that you've done what you needed to do and you're finished before God says you're finished. And so I think being fierce-hearted for a lifetime means not giving in to that. And yes, a lot of things about our lives change, our bodies change, but just keeping our hearts open for a lifetime and staying focused on Jesus and loving those around us, I think that's what it means to be fierce-hearted for a lifetime.
Wow. And just listening to you talk about this book, it just sounds so encouraging and really something needed in today's world.
I certainly hope so. That's what I'm praying.
Holley, where can people go if they want to find out more about you?
They can connect with me at holleygerth.com, or if they want to know more about the book, they can go to fiercehearted.com.
Thank you so much, Holley, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Any parting wisdom that you would like to share with the listening audience?
I would I think, repeat what I said earlier to the listeners. You know, just if you're listening today and you're wondering if you're loved, you are. And if you're wondering if you're seen, you are. And if you're wondering if your life matters, It does.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Holley.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Holley Gerth's new book, Fiercehearted, Live Fully, Love Bravely.
This episode is brought to you by Gospel Lighthouse, with 11 locations including Uptown Waterloo. Visit gospellighthouse.ca.
A light in the darkness, the Gospel Lighthouse.
If you enjoyed this and want to hear more, hit like and subscribe, and you will be notified when we add more videos.